Hey guys, welcome back. Joe here again from ScaleFreak.com, coming to bring you another video in the series of building the SCX2, the Axial SCX10 2 system. What an amazing kit. I absolutely love this thing, guys. If you've watched the videos up until now, you'll see that I'm having a bit of a nerd fest, having a blast building this thing, and this is absolutely no exception with the kit that I'm looking at right now, or the step that I'm looking at right now. We are now heading into Bag D. We're going into the D bag. And of course, we are using still plastic bag 2, which is perfect. And we're getting into the D bag, which is the transmission, which aside from if you've watched the videos so far, you've noticed that the axles were my biggest love in the world. Now we're going into the transmission, which is exciting me on the idea that I'm eventually going to be able to get a 2-speed axial transmission into an SCX10. So that makes me all giddy. That makes me all warm on the insides. So when we're building this kit, a few of the things that we need to remember is that in this section of the build, there's a couple different size things you're looking for. Number one, make sure you get the correct bearings, because some of the bearings are smaller than others. Make sure you also get the correct pins, because some of the pins are little skinny suckers, some of them are big fat guys. And then, of course, make sure you get these correct plastic pieces. In my kit, they had already spun off the little parts trees, so I had to size around to make sure I had the correct one that I was looking at. Just tool around with it, and make sure you get the right one to fit onto the part, and make it work to the best of your ability. So first, we're talking about some new stuff, right? We're talking a lot more bearings. We're talking a lot more gears. We're talking one more shaft, and a lot more parts. Look at this. This is unreal. Look at all these friggin' parts. And of course, we're going to use the udder butter to make sure that these things are greased up correctly. We want to make sure that this transmission is as good as possible on our first build. The idea behind this is, of course, we are talking about something that is the heart of your kit, and you want to make sure the heart is solid and the heart is sound. That's what we're looking to do here, is to make sure that this thing is rock and roll right from the start. So let's go. So grabbing what appears to be, I'd call it a top shaft, but I actually don't even know to this point yet if this is the top of it. Of course, we're going to slip on a bearing, going to hide up on this end. Make sure you grab, get back on there. Make sure you grab, when you're looking through the pins, get the big fat guy. You'll know if it fits correctly, because when it goes in, it's in there and it looks like it's supposed to go there. And then the neat thing is in the artwork on the build, everything looks exactly like it is in the picture. So you'll find the right gear as long as you look at the picture. And then slide on this big bad boy here, and then a bearing onto the end like that. Now I know already how this is going to go into the transmission. It'll be going in like that. So then, of course, my second part, again, grab one of those big fat pins, throw it on there. Whoops, slip it out through. Throw it on there like that. And then again, the artwork is very correct, so you're grabbing that bad boy. And again, make sure you correct the right bearings. You'll know they're not the right bearing when you go to put it into the actual transmission case itself, and there's a ton of play. It's just not going to work. Also, you will notice that this little tiny plastic piece right here, in the instructions, it's clear, but it's unclear because there's so many arrows on the screen at one time. You will see where it's supposed to go into. It just fits in nice and snug in there, so you're rock and roll. Of course, let me see this part here. Then we're going to put on this little bad dude here, and then we're going to throw another bearing on here. So just like, get on there. There, just like that. So that's how that's going to go together. And in reality, it's going to go just like that. See? Easy enough, right? So it does call for the grease. So I'm actually going to grease them up before they go into the transmission, just to make sure that I get a nice coating on it. So, udder butter. You don't need to be sparing on this stuff. Just like that. And then I'm just going to slide this thing ever so lovingly, aka just smash it in there. There we go. And then, of course, the other gear, same situation. I'm left-handed, so I got to switch it around. Put that bad boy on there. Grease it up like you mean it. And then slam that sucker in there. It's better to put the top one in first because it's got a back ledge on it. Then you put this one in. It will fit in, and ta-da! It's in just like so. Hold it up like this so nothing falls out. And then give it a turn to make sure it's all greased in real nice. So if you can see on the inside of there, oh, the love and the care. I love it. So it is a lot of open space in there, but that's fine. I mean, you could just fill that full of hopes and dreams that your transmission's never going to break. You do what you want, right? So, of course, we're going to grab the other side. So these bearings on the other end are going to fall directly into place when I go like this, and ta-da. So now we've got a two-piece, there we go, all together, all nice. Give it a spin, make sure everything is in there, seated in correctly. That's beautiful. The bearings are doing their job. And then this thing is calling in here for a handful of screws to sink these suckers together. So two of these big suckers, right there and right there. And then we've got, oh wait, we're talking 4 of the same size. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If you need to know, just lay it up on the page like that. Like I said before, this thing is actually set up that you can lay it on the page, make sure you're using the right side. They are 2 mil, so start hogging them down. When I say hogging them down, I mean put them in loosely at first, and then wait till they dissipate the heat, because it is plastic. You're going to create a lot of friction by screwing this thing in for the first time. So get it in a little bit just to make sure your transmission case does not fall apart, and then finish snugging it down. I don't want to use words like hog down, because then you strip out the axle case or transmission case and you send me a really nasty email. And I apologize if you took that in the wrong way. So get this thing in here. Now this is the main transmission case, and I'm judging by the fact that they had that little side piece that went in there. I think that later on may be where the upgrade comes into play for kind of a sliding shaft with a servo to be able to make this thing a 2-speed, because why else would you put another hole in the front of it that is conveniently the size of a small rod that could be driven by a servo and slide a gear? Maybe that's one of the reasons why there's all these different plastic pieces, is to be able to put different lengths in there. And I also noticed that when I built it, it looks like that thing covered up a couple pinholes. So I believe that is later on where we're going to be able to start to sync on additional gears, additional bearings for additional upgrades. I say that with my superhero voice because I'm super friggin' excited for when they can make this thing a 2-speed transmission. Let me see here. So, last screw. I know how entertaining it is to watch people screw. What does that even mean? So, hold on. This is a nice big unit. I mean, a transmission doesn't need to be some dainty little 2-piece jobby, especially considering the fact that in a real vehicle, the transmission is, in some cases, as big as the motor. So, yeah, why not, right? So just kind of tighten this down a little bit. Again, don't crank these things down. They're hot from friction. Just snug them in for now. Make sure the case doesn't fall apart. And again, for some people who want to, I guess in theory you could actually fill this transmission full of grease. But as long as you're using the right stuff, like the Cow RC Udder Butter, this stuff is sticky like tar. It goes onto the part that you put it on, and it stays there. So you're going to be good. And it's waterproof, so you're not going to worry about the water just kind of breaking it down and just causing a soup inside your transmission. This stuff's going to stick to where you put it and keep it there. Kind of like McDonald's. It's just going to stick to the inside of you, and good luck on the Stairmaster. So there we go. Lock that down. So I'm confident in how much pressure I've put on it. Everything is turning freely and beautifully. You can hear my gears making noise inside there, which is, I mean, fine with me. It's a transmission, right? They make noise. It's gears going against gears. Eventually they will kind of seat themselves in correctly. But as long as the shafts are all in exactly where I need them to be, I'm in love. All right, so that's piece number 1. So then, of course, we're going to go to the smaller kind of transfer case setup that we have. And I do want to note that I'm actually a big fan of all the little extra details they put on this thing, as far as the where the scale rivets and the scale flashing and stuff would be. Sorry, there's one more screw I have to put in here. This little guy here. I believe it's that screw right there. And that is going to take, where did it go? This little piece. I was just looking at the instructions and I was like, oh my God, I forgot about one tiny little screw that goes on right like so. I'm in the dark as to what this part is so far, but it calls for it, so it wants it. And if this little thing wants it, it gets it. And ta-da. So that's that last screw on that part. Done. So that's locked and loaded on that. So I'm just going to set that off to the side and let it be friends with that for a little minute. Okay, so let's move on next to... Oh yeah, sorry, little transfer case guy. So again, we're looking back to the metal parts, shaft and shaft, shorter of the two. Now we're working on the small pins now. And you can definitely tell here because you would not be able to get a large pin inside that hole. So ta-da, there it goes. Bearing on each end and one of these little bad boys here. Now there are going to be a couple of these. Luckily for me, they're both the same part number. So I know I'm not going to make that mistake. There we go. Slide that in. Make sure I'm putting it on the correct direction. So put that on here. So what's going to happen with this one is when it slides on, there's still going to be enough room to put a bearing on each side. So if you put it on and you notice that a bearing will not fit, you've got it on wrong. So like that. And then what we're doing now is I'm just going to slide this thing directly into the center of the case, just so I can start kind of piecing stuff together. You'll also notice here that this, on the bottom end of this transmission, there's a spline. And on this, there is a spline. So you can kind of spline that sucker into there, just like that. There are screw holes as well, so just make sure you line that up. See? Screw holes, spline, on. You can't make the mistake on that one. It's going to fit. I just want to make sure that I have the pin correctly. So what you're going to do is put the pin in first. Pick up the pin. Put that in. Then slide this on. Otherwise, it's not going to go, and you can't get it in later, or it would be very difficult to. And then you are going to, let me just check this real quick. I'm going to check, and yeah, bearing first into this. So slam that in. Don't forget to put the bearing in there. Now I am going to have to do this. Wow. There, bearing. Okay, so I'm going to make a call in what I said, or a change in what I said. So don't put that centerpiece in yet. Slide the bearing on first. Get it locked in. Don't put that center section in first. Now slide the pin in, because now you're going to have to do it from the side. This I'm going to need pliers for, because my hands are too big to fit in there. Just like that. Ta-da. And then slide that little gear on there like this. Ta-da, that's done. Now put this part in. Ta-da, that's done. But don't forget to slap the bearing on top of that as well. So just like that. Now there is another little bar in here. Make sure you're holding it in the correct direction. Okay, again, that last little pin. It's going to go, once you find it, back in the center. And then the last little gear is going to slide onto it like so. And then, of course, you're going to do the last two bearings. So bop and bop. And that little guy directly into there. So now what we've done is we've created the shaft that's going to go from the motor in through what will eventually be upgraded to a 2-speed transmission case into what is going to be, I guess, in theory, your transfer case, and it's going to latch on and actually drop down into the chassis, and you have your output shaft and your output shaft. So that's how that's done. Now, of course, I'm going to lock this sucker up, but not without an injection. Blur. Blur. It calls for the grease. Give it a few turns. Get it all just... Ah, look at that. Put some more in. Why not? Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, it's coated. And then, of course, the other side of this bad boy is going to go on right like... Come here. Come here. Oh, put it the correct way. Right like that. Ta-da. There we go. Oh, that looks so cool. Big long screws, the two long ones. Grab your 2mm. Drive them in. Remember, don't crank it all the way down. I'll just keep reminding you. Oh, this thing looks amazing, guys. Now that it's all together and I'm holding it in my hand, I mean, it's not completely together, but just this part of it, this thing just looks unreal. It's so much more sophisticated and so much cooler than the system we were using in the normal SCX10. Whoever designed this, good on you, buddy. This is cool. I'm really also looking forward to seeing, with all the additional pieces, what kind of longevity we're going to get from this, but also what the aftermarket's going to do with something like this, because I think that we're going to start to see, with as popular as scale has gotten, stuff like this is just going to just skyrocket, which I am very excited for, by the way. I mean, can't you tell in the tone of my voice how excited I am? All right, one last screw onto this big bad boy here. Ta, almost, duh. Done. Done that part at least. Keep proclaiming mission accomplished. There we go. That part's done. So how cool is that? Turns freely. I love. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful sight. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, on to the next page. So now we're talking about throwing on the rest of the transmission itself. So back onto this side, we're looking at a couple different things. Number one, we've got this big, bad monster. So one of the questions that I got was, hey, dude, the motor plate, is that thing going to be made of metal? And I said, you know what? I actually don't have an answer for you on that one. It's not. The motor plate is not made of metal. The motor plate is actually a ridiculously thick plastic. This thing is humongously thick. Talking with Steve, one of his concerns was, what about heat dissipation? Yep, absolutely. That would be a concern that I would think about too. So let's see what happens with that. Let's see if we can get some aftermarket support with that. So again, that just slides on like so. And then we've got where the motor is going to hook into, just like that. Because remember, this whole thing is going to be like a giant shroud. When all the gearing and stuff is done, it's going to be covered up as much as possible, protected as much as possible for the most part. 1, 2, and 3. Now, normally with the SCX10 stuff, of course, with the normal SCX10 stuff, we're using a lot of Loctite in stages like this because of the fact that we are screwing directly into metal. But in this case, we're not. There's no metal involved here, actually, except for the screw itself. So these are really long screws. So they were definitely expecting some plastic on plastic action here, where all of the power is going to go in. So without question, this thing is expected to be taking a lot of power without twisting this stuff up or maiming the plastics. Just get this thing in here. This is one of those days where I wish I had charged my drill, like a bonehead. I didn't, and my son's been playing with it, so of course he has completely killed the battery. But that's what we have sons for. So one more screw on this spot. Now, with the kits that I run now, I mean, I know what brushless power does. I know it's impressive, but I tend to stay away from it. I find that it's maybe a little bit more jerky than what I want in my trucks. So I believe that this one is also going to go a brushless truck as well, possibly another 35 turn, because that seems to be uber successful. Me personally, I like running the 35 turn motors on 3-cell, which gives me super crawlability on the low end and outrageous wheel speed on the top end if I want to jam the throttle. So there's that for me there. And then, of course, your motor is going to come into the back section. This is all hollowed out here to be able to fit your motor in. Pop, it goes in there, and then screws in the front. And again, pretty heavy-duty plastic. That thing's not going to go very many places, so I'm a fan of that as well. Now, this is a double clutch pad system. So if you've been a racer and you've been around Team Associated at all, then you're probably very familiar with this system. If you're not a racer and you haven't been around Team Associated, then you're not. But anyway, on one plate. Now, before there used to be a pin and the whole gear would slide over the pin. This one here, the shaft itself is kind of notched in a way. So that's going to go on one side. The other one's going to go on the other. But the backs of these little guys here are stickies. So peel it off like so. Holy cow. Grow nails, folks. All right, and it's going to stick onto your gear itself. And I do want to note again, beautiful, beautiful design on the 32 pitch. Yes, been using 48 pitch for years. I keep meaning to upgrade to the 32, but I did not. Now this new truck is out, and I will not be changing my old trucks to 32. I will probably just upgrade to this system. Sorry, I won't buy the aftermarket 32. I will probably just upgrade to this Axial system. So once you get them pressed in there, they're going to stay on. Now we're going to slide this little bad boy in the middle to take up the space. This slides on like so. The other clutch plate goes into there. And then we have a spring. And we have a nut. Like so. Now, how much you screw this down, that's up to you. My answer? Yeah, I lock it solid. But again, it's completely your prerogative as to what you would like to do. It's just a wheel hex wrench, which I forgot somewhere else, so I'm just going to use a set of pliers. And this is not my final configuration, so I'm just kind of holding it on there for now. But once I get the final configuration, that gear won't move. Everything will be locked down, and I will most likely lock this thing flat because I don't want any slip. But sometimes when you do that, you get axle twist. Your car jumps a little bit more. If you roll it down a hill, you're definitely more susceptible to damage. But hey, your kit, man. Do what you want. Okay, so let's pretend like I put a motor on this. Let's pretend like I've got the gears all set up correctly. It does come with a 32, a 15. So this winds up being a, let's see here. Yeah, it's a 15-tooth pinion gear, 32 pitch. So if you love it, keep it, man. This thing is a neat system. I love how nice and beefy these things are. And a lot easier to do a gear mesh as well. Of course, throw this on there. That's I'm noticing right now. So on the old Axial transmission, if you needed to make adjustments to the slipper gear, you could just pop the top off of that, get in with the wrench, and make the changes. With this one, you cannot. That does not come off. I wonder how many people will just cut that off. So pop that on there. It does have some little leader tabs to make sure everything is sealed off. And done. Pop it into place. And use the last couple of screws that are with it. So it comes with the motor screw, and then comes with the other two screws you need to finish putting this together. So that's one. Now I'm also seeing that when you finally do this with the last couple of screws, this is completing the motor plate being screwed into everything. And there's also some notches in here for other stuff, so it does look like there will be more stuff that possibly might be added in at a later time. Oh, I know what I did. One second here. Cool. So all set up. So that is that. That is, yep, all the transmission put together. So this is a fairly large unit. You know what? Let's do this. Without a motor, please keep in mind this thing is full of grease. Without a motor, all gears, and everything put together, almost 6.6, so 6.55 ounces for that whole unit. That's big. That's a big unit. That's it's got some weight to it. So yeah, maybe that's why some of the people like to stay with the old transmission. The old transmission is definitely lighter, and if you already have it and it works for you, why not? So if you're building an ultralight kit, maybe that is the better way to go if you don't want to go to a 2-speed option. I definitely want to go to a 2-speed option, so I will put that in. So, ta-da, ta-da. I'll put that over there, and I'll put it right here. So, guys, that is the transmission. If you have any questions about this thing, please put it in the comments field down below. I'll answer anything that I can for you. Of course, please click on the like, the subscribe, and if you can, please share this throughout your community. Don't forget to check out down below in the comments, or not the comment section, but in the links section, there will be the link to the whole build series for this. I'm going through all the bags one by one and kind of getting them all set up. And that's really about it for now. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for checking it out, and have a great day.